I think the big transformation for businesses is not that hierarchy is going to crumble, but rather that many of the relative advantages of hierarchy are now reduced. Right, you remember the HSBC protest of last summer where HSBC recruited a lot of UK college students and recent graduates by saying, you know, we've got penalty-free checking. They sign up thousands of people, and then after everybody's dispersed in the summer, they say, oh, we've changed our minds, right? Now you owe us, you know, 140 pounds if you go over in your checking account or what have you. And what HSBC knew was that the students would have a hard time figuring out what other banks they could switch to, and they would have a hard time doing anything organized about it. What HSBC didn't know is that Facebook would get involved. And so Wes Streeting, a Cambridge student, puts up a page called Stop the Great HSBC Ripoff. And although the students are spread to the four corners of the globe, right, the web is also spread to the four corners of the globe. And so they all discover that this is happening, and out of affection, right, and a desire for reputational capital among one another, they start to write up instructions about this is how you'd leave HSBC and go over to Barclays, right? So there goes the informational advantage. And then they stage protests online, and they threaten a real-world protest. The real-world protest never happens because HSBC backs down before people can actually assemble down in the city and start pelting them with eggs or what have you. But the habitual 20th century norm is institutions enjoy a relative monopoly on tight management of information and tight coordination of action. And that big distributed groups like your customers don't have those things. And so that, I think, right, that change, realizing, no, my customers can be coordinated, they can act in groups, they can share information laterally with one another without involving me at all. That's a different environment. There's advantages for businesses there as well as disadvantages, but it is certainly a transformed environment. Right. I think in a way it's happening on many different scales and levels right now. It's just that many of the most vivid examples are kind of one-offs. We're just not still seeing what is a particular eruption and what's a pattern. One of the most remarkable examples in the States, in 2006, California was on its way to debating an anti-immigration law. And there was a protest in Los Angeles on a Friday or Saturday. And a bunch of high school students saw that and were inspired, right? Now, who was a high school student has not thought, oh, there's a political issue, I should get involved, right? And, usually by that evening the thought passes or what have you. But here it was really a significant political slap in the face of the Latino community. And so Monday morning, right, 48 hours later, 50,000 high school students, Latino high school students, walk out of the schools in the LA Unified School District, walk down the road blocking traffic to City Hall. First of all, getting 50,000 high school students to do anything coordinated is previously just out of reach. Second of all, 48 hours, I mean, this is quite extraordinary. And third, they did it all on MySpace and using SMS, which means the school administrators never saw it coming. They didn't take out billboards, they didn't take out radio ads, they didn't put anything in the newspaper. It was entirely done with social media. And so there's an example of a really marginalized part of American culture suddenly saying, you know what, we can act together, we can act out. And in this world, there's the group power, the group leverage is quite obvious in all of these stories. The individual power goes down to that one person or that small group of people who can offer the plausible promise in a way that gets people not just to be aware that it's possible, but excited about it. We talked about the Linux operating system and Linus Torvalds. One of Linus's great strengths has been to make other people understand how the software works. And so a journalist asked him, end of last year, right, what's coming in Linux, in your operating system, in 2008? And he said, well, it seems to be virtualization. I don't actually care. And virtualization is an obscure thing you can do with an operating system. But Linus says, I actually don't care about virtualization. I'm not working on it. But I recognize that since that's what the community is working on, that's where the software that bears my name is going. And that kind of leadership, which says, I've created a platform, and the things that happen on that platform are so embraced by the people there that I don't. If something's happening that I don't want to work on, I don't have to work on it, and it will still happen. And that kind of leadership, that kind of value, just privileges a different set of skills, a different kind of people. I don't know who it was who kicked off the first handful of messages that got 50,000 people to walk out of school 2 days later, but whoever that person was and whatever they had, that's a 21st century skill.